Very few independent comics have experienced the kind of success TMNT got ever since its early days. But as the story evolved and our favorite ninjas learned to survive and thrive without their father figure, Splinter, we were introduced to another mutant rat, but he is a villain this time. Dr. Jasper is a human who was turned into a mutant rat because of a mutagen bomb and is one of the few villains whom we can deeply empathize with. But his actions were despicable to speak of. He kidnapped, tore apart limbs, and subjected living beings to inhumane experiments with just one goal in mind: to turn himself human again. This selfish goal made him do many unspeakable things with just a few comic appearances, and he quickly became one of the most hated characters because fans consider him a counterpart of Splinter, an evil Splinter. And in today's video, we will dive deep into this new villain's origins and sinister motives. But before we get started with the video, we have a small request for you. If you like our content, subscribe to us and like this video. It might be just a simple click for you, but it means a lot to us. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's get started. Who is Dr. Jasper Barlow, the obsessed doctor and his experiment? Dr. Jasper Barlow was a human who turned into a mutant after old Bob set off the mutagen bomb in New York. Due to this event, Dr. Jasper had to relocate to Mutant Town. Dr. Jasper Barlow made his first appearance in the TMNT comic number 125. The story starts in Mutant Town with the turtle siblings prepping themselves in the Splinter Dojo, and suddenly, they are ambushed by the punk frogs. They claim that Donatello has kidnapped one of their members, whose name was Bonnie, but Donatello denies their claim, and the punk frogs start attacking them. In the chaos that ensues, the frogs throw a Molotov cocktail on the Splinter Dojo, and it starts burning. Somehow, everyone gets out of the burning dojo alive, but Jenica asks if anyone has seen her girlfriend, Sheena. The scene cuts, and we see Sheena visiting a mysterious place where it's written, "Reclaim your humanity." This is the first time we meet Dr. Jasper. He was a weird-looking, rat-like mutant with two assistants, Chuck and DB. Sheena was here for a hair graft consultation. Sheena was a human-turned-mutant and was conscious of not having hair on her head, so she wanted to go through the consultation to get her hair back. But Dr. Jasper had other plans. Meanwhile, a few months ago in Burno Island, we see that Commander Zom is pregnant and will give birth to a baby. When the news reaches Marielle and Sherelle is upset as the Triceraton population increases. Commander Zom also denied Sherelle's request to use the fallen Triceraton's bodies as hosts for the newborn Utroms, and Sherelle started developing a hatred for the commander. Back in Mutant Town, we see the Splinter Dojo has fallen apart, and Mona allows the Splinter Clan to rest at her place. Just about then, Raph arrives, sees the dojo in ruins, and inquires about it. So, Al and Leo peeved at him for playing sheriff when his family needed him. Raph was a bit pushed back by these acquisitions, but realized that they were just pissed off. So, the Turtles, Al, and Casey decided to find the punk frog's base and talk to them about their action. But when they visit the punk frog's lair, the frogs suddenly start attacking them, and one frog claims that he saw a turtle with a prosthetic shell kidnap Bonnie and blames Donatello again. The Splinter Clan was not ready for this, and they were trounced. Don and Al somehow fall inside a different building, and while finding a way out, they find medical equipment and experiments. Don was immediately intrigued, but they had to hide because they heard someone arrive. Chuck passes through the hallway, revealing they are in Dr. Jasper's lair. Don then meets Dr. Jasper, and both of them, being science geeks, get along very well. Dr. Jasper then asks Don if he wants his shell fixed because he can help him, and he is already working on a patient with a similar case. This intrigued Don, but Al called the other Splinter Clan member there. Upon arrival, the clan member sensed something fishy and leave the site soon. Meanwhile, on Burno Island, it was revealed that Zom has already given birth to a baby Triceraton named Sari. While Zom is playing with Sari, Sherelle attacks and kills Zom using an exoskeleton, and Zom, with her last dying breath, asks Marielle to protect Sari. Marielle puts Sari in a pod, which would accelerate her growth in an attempt to save the life of Sari. In Mutant Town, Don feels that there is something wrong with Dr. Jasper's lab, and the kidnapping of Bonnie is somehow linked to him. So, he sneaks out to his lair to find answers, but Al tags along with him. But at Dr. Jasper's clinic, he was talking with a mysterious figure on call and claiming that the specimen was almost ready. And meeting the turtles gave him enough inspiration to perfect the specimen. Right about then, Don rings the bell, and Dr. Jasper receives him. While Dr. Jasper and Don chat, Al snoops inside his laboratory and discovers Barlow's secret. Then Dr. Jasper takes Don to his lab and shows him the secret to all of his experiments, the shells from the dragon that attacked Manhattan. He claims that the shells can reanimate dead tissues, have amazing regenerative ability, and awaken dormant psionic ability. Then, the doctor introduces Don to his recent experiment, who is going through a similar treatment as him, whom he calls Venus. Meanwhile, Al discovers the experiments of Dr. Jasper and is disgusted by them. DB then catches her, but she somehow runs from there and reaches another lab where she witnesses that the doctor has been trying to create a mutant turtle and has all his failed experiments in glass chambers. Al tries to contact Dawn but is captured by DB and Ziggy, another assistant of Dr. Jasper. Meanwhile, in Brno Island, it was revealed that Marielle was able to grow Siri to 18 years of age and help her escape the island with the help of a spacecraft that would take her to the turtles. In Dr. Jasper's lab, Jasper tells Dawn everything about Venus. He reveals that he found her critically wounded and tried to perfect her by giving her a more turtle-like appearance. Dawn then claims that her real name is Bonnie, and Jasper kidnapped her. Jasper denies his claim and says he's talking nonsense. When Dawn goes closer to Venus, she somehow talks with Dawn using telepathy and asks him to help her escape. Dawn lashes out at Dr. Jasper and says that he's keeping Venus without her consent and tries to free her. But Dr. Jasper injects Dawn with a syringe and he falls unconscious. When Dawn wakes up, he finds himself, Al, and Sheena tied to a machine, ready to be experimented on. Venus again contacts Dawn and tells her that she was supposed to be a clone and that someone commissioned Dr. Jasper to create her. Al also wakes up and claims she saw a bunch of messed up mutated turtles in the other lab. Just about then, Dr. Jasper arrives and exposes Dawn to the dragon shell's energy. Dawn is about to pass out from this, but Venus contacts him telepathically and tells him to let it flow through him. After following Venus's instruction, Dawn goes out of his body into the astral plane. This is the first time he can do so, and there he witnesses himself in his past life and meets his father. He gets emotional and asks his father why did he leave him. Back in his real body, Jasper congratulates Dawn and says that he responded well to the dragon energy, and now they can move on to fix his shell. Venus contacts Dawn again and asks him to contact his brother through his astral form. But when they are in their astral form, they meet Oroku Saki, who asks if they need his help. Oroku Saki goes to Dr. Jasper's clinic and helps Dawn, Al, and Sheena escape, and they run to save Venus. They all try to get out of this clinic but are stopped by DB and Chuck. So, Venus takes care of Chuck using her psionic ability. As they all leave the clinic, the spaceship carrying Sari suddenly crashes into Dr. Jasper's clinic, obliterating it. Dr. Jasper is then contacted via his mysterious beneficiary, and he informs that his lab is destroyed and all his work is gone. But he was somehow able to save a pouch of Dawn's blood. Jasper then proceeds to run away from the scene without being caught. The Curious Destiny of Dr. Jasper, a Rat's Tale. Dr. Jasper makes another appearance in TMNT Comics issue number 141. The story of the issue started with Raph being captured for being at a crime scene and was hence regarded as suspect number 1. Recently, a lot of mutants have been murdered in Mutant Town. That's why the cops are caging up anyone they find slightly suspicious. Jenica then arrives and bails Raph out of jail. Jenny jokes about this being Raph's first visit to jail, but Raph is serious about finding the culprit behind the mysterious murders in Mutant Town. Jenny asks to call everyone before they go snooping around, but Raph says they'll be okay, and both leave looking for a lead. Upon reaching the site of the previous murder, Jenny sees a trail of blood leading to a meat locker. They follow the trail and find that the weasels are feasting on the meat and food. Raph and Jenny were happy to see the weasels, but suddenly, the weasels started attacking, calling them bad. Suddenly, Leatherhead appears out of nowhere and starts attacking the ninjas. They fight, but Jenny gets hurt in the process. Leatherhead looked different as his eyes were glowing red, and his whole body emanated red energy. Leatherhead was instructed by a mysterious voice to pick Mushroom and bring him to the lair, and he does just that. Leatherhead later apologizes to Mushroom for kidnapping him and says he isn't in control. He then brings Mushroom to a mysterious person, and he praises him for his action. Then we see that the mysterious person was none other than Dr. Jasper Barlow. The other two weasels arrive at their lair, and it is revealed that they are in the care of Al. Al has separated from the Splinter Clan and made her own clan called the Claw Clan. She interrogates the other two weasels about Mushroom's whereabouts, but they were too shaken to tell her what happened. This is when Raph arrives in their lair. She is pissed off at his arrival and tells him to go away. Ralph tells her about what happened, and Al says she doesn't need anyone's help and goes to find Mushroom by herself. Back at Dr. Jasper's lair, he was prepping Mushroom for a treatment and inserting her with the dragon shells to make her one of her servants. He reveals that he has discovered that the dragon scales can now control mutation itself and inserts the dragon scale fragments inside his hand, which makes his eyes glow red, and he also starts emanating red lightning from his body. This is when Al and the Claw Clan arrive in the sewer, where Dr. Jasper made his new laboratory. Jasper sends Chuck and Leatherhead to deal with Al, Chuck defeats them and is about to kill Al, but Leather stops him, allowing the Claw Clan to escape the scene. Meanwhile, Leo, Dawn, and Venus discover that this is all somehow linked to Dr. Jasper and go to find him. Meanwhile, Jasper has already finished experimenting on Mushroom, giving her a skull tattoo on her belly and making her eyes glow red. Everyone goes to the sewers to find Dr. Jasper, except Raph, who cares for the injured Al. Inside Jasper's clinic, he reveals his real intentions behind conducting the experiment. He reveals that he loved his human life. He had everything one could dream of, but he was turned into a mutant and forced to live in Mutant Town. He lost everything, and he only wants to reclaim his humanity. Since there were 3 tunnels in the sewer, the team divided themselves into 3 groups. Mikey and Venus end up in one group. As all the groups were treading through the tunnels, they came across Night Terror. These creatures use magic to put a person in nightmares of their deepest and darkest insecurity. It puts all the teams in nightmares. But Venus uses her dragon scale magic and recovers. She uses the same magic on Mikey, waking him from the nightmare. They came across Dr. Jasper's makeshift lab. When they went a bit ahead, they watched that Jasper's guards have already taken all their team members with them, and all of them are unconscious. Mikey enters the room and wakes Leo, but Leatherhead catches them, and Mikey, Leo, and Venus end up fighting him. Jasper sees this and sends Chuck to put them down. He grasps Mushroom and runs away with the last fragment of the dragon scale. Venus notices this and goes after Dr. Jasper. While fighting the mutated creatures, Leo finds the weak point of the creatures. Thus, Leo and Mikey defeat all the other creatures. On the other side, Venus confronts Dr. Jasper, and they engage in a fight where Dr. Jasper reveals that he was able to turn back his mutation and reveals his final form as he looks closer to his human form. Leo and Mikey are facing difficulty fighting Leatherhead, who is being controlled by the Night Terror, but Mushroom helps him with her power, and Leatherhead starts fighting alongside the turtle. As all the dragon scales were destroyed one by one, Dr. Jasper's form started to alter. He soon becomes a messed up, monstrous-looking rat-like creature and starts attacking the turtle, but Venus uses her magic, and Mushroom aids her. They both transform Jasper into a small mutant mouse, the one thing he always hated. Leo then hands Jasper over to the police, and Dr. Jasper ends up in a condition that he thinks is worse than death. Dr. Jasper's transformation, harnessing the powers of Dragon Scale. Ever since his debut, Dr. Jasper was shown to experiment on different mutants, and the sole purpose of doing that was to reverse his own mutation and turn himself into his human self. He truly despised his mutant form and wanted to undo that at all costs, and he was also very close to his goal, thanks to his genius and the powers of the Dragon Scale. Dr. Jasper used the Dragon Scales in most experiments to study its effects on others. He somehow found a way to control the mutation levels of different creatures, which he used on himself, and turned himself very close to his human self. While his desire to do so is understandable, his ways were utterly evil. After the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles butchered his plan, he transformed into a monstrous rat-like creature and unleashed his rage upon the bunch. After the Splinter Clan defeated it, Venus turned him into a more rat-like creature, and Jasper was utterly broken by this and expressed that he would most likely choose death, then lose the last bits of his humanity. At the end of it, Jasper is put in jail, but he's not yet dead, and we can expect him to return again and seek revenge for what the Turtles made him go through. Marvelous verdict. Dr. Jasper had an immense hunger inside him to turn back the mutation caused by the mutagen bomb. It might have been a blessing for many mutants living in Mutant Town if he had succeeded, as they could have returned to their everyday lives. But Jasper's sinister path made him one of the most hated villains in recent times. Everyone was suspicious of him since his introduction, but none could have guessed the lengths this mutant would go to reach his goals. Although the Turtles stopped him, this is not the end of his tale. As we know, if a character is in prison, he would return and cause another major mayhem. So, it would be okay to assume that Dr. Jasper would return, and this time, he would bring along another evil plan and cause another massive mayhem. Wait, the word mayhem reminded us there is a strong likelihood that Dr. Jasper can appear in the TMNT animated movie, but we think it's too soon for his introduction because he's a relatively new character in the comic and hasn't been explored in such depth, but the possibilities are endless. If he appears in the animated movies, who do you think should voice him? With that being said, if you like our content, like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.